Part 2, using the SSR to participate in MIPS 2017. In this part, we will go over 4 sections. Sign up for or consent to MIPS 2017 participation, enter your MIPS 2017 data, review your MIPS 2017 data, and approve your MIPS 2017 data submission. Section 1, signing up for MIPS 2017 participation. For this educational demonstration, we proceed as though everyone already has an SSR account. If you do not have an SSR account, please contact us at ssr@facs.org to begin the process. So, log into the SSR at acsdataplatform.com. Once you're logged in, you'll be brought to the cases page. This is the main page that you see every time you log in. So for those of you with an account, this should look very familiar, and you should have some cases already in the system. For those of you that sign up from this point forward, you will not see any cases here. A few things you'll notice. On the left side, you have the SSR main menu. Again, this is where your cases are going to be. And then to create a new case, click on Add New. But first, we must consent to MIPS. So we're going to navigate to Form Management, and then we'll click on Clinician Forms. From here, click on Add New under the Add Forms section for this Add New MIPS 2017 participation. And for future reference, if you need to edit any information in your MIPS 2017 consent form, you'll be able to access it under the Edit Forms section. Read the agreements, and then check the box that says I consent to the terms and conditions of MIPS 2017 participation through the ACS SSR. Click on Save. Next, enter your NPI number. You may also use the advanced search function to search for an NPI. For your NPI, it must be your individual surgeon NPI. It cannot be a group or corporate NPI of any sort. Then enter in the taxpayer identification number, the TIN number, in combination. So this TIN must be associated with the billing of your Medicare Part B fee-for-service beneficiaries. And if you are expected to report on multiple TINs, you may add another TIN number to report on by clicking Add Instance. Next, if you plan to participate in the quality option, select your quality option. Since we'll be focusing on the ACS surgical phases of care, I have selected this option. Next, select the measures to be reported on. When you select measures, they will appear in the summary section below. Review your selections for accuracy. And also, you'll notice that I've selected all 10 measures. You do not have to do this. This is just a demonstration of all the measures and how they look in the system. Next, if you plan on participating in the improvement activities category of MIPS, scroll below the measures section and first select all, if any, that apply to the surgeon. Then select the IA and attestation periods. If you would like to add another improvement activity, click on Add Instance. When filling out this section, first choose the activity from the activity list. Then, under Attestation, select Partial Year. Then, select the start and end dates for the IA attestation period. Again, all IAs must be attested to for a minimum of 90 days. And as you can see here, I have selected such a period of time. Let's add another improvement activity. And if you need to delete anything, delete an activity, you have this button right here. So I've added another improvement activity. Repeat the process by filling out all the data points. You'll also notice that if you select a attestation period that is less than 90 days, you will get a notification message indicating that information. Remember, all IAs must be reported to for a minimum of 90 days. To add another, click on Add Instance, and you may add as many improvement activities as you need. So now you've filled in all of your information for the MIPS consent form. The last thing to do is to just review your information again, make sure that your selections are what you originally intended, and then click on Save and Exit. Remember, you may always make adjustments to your consent form at a later point. Once clicking on Save and Exit, you'll be brought back to Form Management, at which point, click on Cases to navigate back to the SSR Main Page. Section 2. Enter your MIPS 2017 data. Click on Add New to add a new case. You'll first be prompted to add a procedure date. It must be in the 2017 performance year, otherwise it is not an eligible case for MIPS. Click on Submit to open the case form. A few things that you'll want to do. First, select the MIPS consideration checkbox. Once this box has been checked, the Measures tab will appear. Next, check the long form checkbox. You will need to access one other form in the long form to enter risk factor variables for the SPC outcome measures SPC 8, 9, and 10. And once you have checked this box, the Pre-Op Risk Factors tab will appear along with several other tabs you see there. And you'll be using these tabs to navigate between the case forms and the measures. And now we'll just go into a little bit of detail about the menu tabs. Most of the data fields that you will have to enter for the phases of care measures can be filled out on the short form. And these fields include medical record number, date of birth, patient sex, functional status, pre-op sepsis, current smoker, hospital admission date, procedure date, primary procedure, surgical approach, MIPS, surgeon role, which must be primary or co-surgeon, emergency case, elective surgery, ASA classification, wound classification, 30-day readmission, and 30-day unplanned return to the OR. Couple of quick notes. You may have noticed that several of these variables in the list have an asterisk next to them. This indicates that these are variables required for risk adjustment for SPC measures 8, 9, and 10, which are outcome measures. You'll also notice that a few of these fields in the list are italicized. For instance, the current smoker field. This field will answer the qualifying question for SPC 3, which is the measure pertaining to tobacco cessation intervention. It does not answer the measure itself, but it will pre-populate the qualifying question on the Measures tab. And then you'll also notice that 30-day readmission and 30-day unplanned return to the OR are also in this list. 30-day readmission is linked to the measure SPC 9, and 30-day unplanned return to the OR is linked to the measure SPC 8. So selecting a value for either of these fields on the short form will populate the corresponding answer on the Measures tab for either of those measures if you are reporting on either of those. You'll also need to access the Pre-Op Risk Factors tab. There are 2 risk factor variables required for risk adjustment on this tab, and those are dyspnea and ascites. Again, these risk factor variables are required for SBC measures 8, 9, and 10. Again, these risk factor variables are required for SBC measures 8, 9, and 10. Lastly, we have the Measures tab. This is where you will find all SBC measures and applicable qualifying questions. Let's begin entering in a sample case. Enter the medical record number, the date of birth, and the patient's sex. Please note you do not have to enter in a patient last or first name. Doing so is only for your own workflow purposes. Next, in the pre-op information section, we have the functional status risk factor variable, pre-op sepsis, and then here is the current smoker field, which we just talked about. So, selecting a variable for the current smoker field corresponds to the qualifying question pertaining only to SBC3, preventive care and screening, tobacco screening and cessation intervention. Your selection here will populate to the qualifying question in the Measures tab. It should also be noted that this field does not answer SBC3 itself. Then we have the operative information. Here we have the procedure date that you entered before opening the case form. You may change this at any time. We also have hospital admission date and time. For many of these measures, it is required that hospital admission occurred on the same day of the procedure. So you must enter a hospital admission date that is the same as the procedure date for some of the measures in order for them to be eligible. Then you have your primary procedure. Please refer to the measure specifications for the eligible CPT codes. Then we have surgical approach, which is for MIPS specifically. You have surgeon role. Further down, you have emergency case. And then you also have elective surgery. You can answer both of them or just one of them. If you select yes for elective surgery, emergency case will automatically be selected as no and grayed out. Then we have ASA classification, wound classification, and then we have post-op occurrences. So, 30-day readmission is tied to the measure in the Measures tab, SBC9. So, selecting a variable for the 30-day readmission field corresponds to the measure SBC9 unplanned hospital readmission within 30 days of principal procedure. Your selection here will populate to the measure in the Measures tab. Likewise, for 30-day unplanned return to the OR, it corresponds to measure SBC8, unplanned reoperation within the 30-day postoperative period. In the pre-op risk factors tab, you have two variables that are required for any of the outcome measures for SBC, dyspnea and ascites. Next, click on the Measures tab to access the SBC measures. And first, you'll have a series of qualifying questions to answer. Please be sure to answer all measures qualifying questions as they pertain to your selection of measures. You'll also notice that the required data fields for the SBC measures are reiterated on the Measures tab for your reference. And again, if you entered the current smoker data field, your entry will have populated here for this measures, that is SBC3, qualifying question. So with these qualifying questions, just to break it down a little bit, you have the question, it's very simple. They're yes or no responses. And just underneath the question, there will be a label in bold indicating which SBC measures the question applies to. Next, we have our measures. Here we have the measure numbers and titles. And then you'll also notice this orange text above some of the measures. This is there because certain measures require additional fields to be entered before being applicable and answerable. So, as we discussed before, composite type measures have at least 2 or more components that must be answered individually. The overall selections for a composite measure will indicate overall performance on the measure. And then you'll notice here that if you answered 30-day unplanned return to the OR or 30-day readmission, your answer will populate here. So, as you're filling out your measures, select the appropriate numerator option. Each numerator option listed for a measure includes the description of the clinical action. Once the numerator option has been selected for each measure, the surgeon has successfully reported on 1 or more measures for one case. Once the numerator option has been selected for each measure, the surgeon has successfully reported on 1 or more measures for one case. For a composite measure, each component must be answered to meet the entire measure. And so a couple notes about that. You can meet performance on a composite measure in a couple of scenarios. How you answer each component will determine that. So if you meet performance on each component within the composite measure, that is meeting performance for the entire measure. If you meet performance on a component and then have an exclusion for the other component, that still counts as meeting performance for a measure. A performance exclusion does not count against the physician. However, if you have answered for a component's performance not met, then the entire measure is performance not met. So you've entered all of your measures data. The last thing to do is check the complete box at the top of the case form. The reason that you must do this is because this indicates to the system that this is a case to be included in your MIPS final data submission. You can still make edits to the case if necessary without unchecking the complete box. And then save your case. It is recommended that you just save throughout. To save throughout as you're entering in data, just click on the Save button to the leftmost side of this section. Also, just a quick note, the Measures tab will turn black when all data points have been entered. If the tab is orange with an X next to it, then there are unanswered data points. Section 3. Review your MIPS 2017 data. So whether you've entered all of your data at this point or you've been entering data throughout the year, you may now use the operational reports to determine any missing data or any eligible cases. So after clicking on operational reports, select Measures Report. And there are 3 reports to help you review your MIPS measures data: Measure Summary, Measure Details, and Missing Data View. First, you'll be prompted to select Apply Parameters. 2017 is automatically set by default. Once you do that, the report will run. And you'll notice a few things. You can toggle among the 3 reports by selecting any of the Reports tabs. Here you have this blue summary section, which we'll go over in more detail. And then whichever report you've selected will appear in this section below. And now we'll go over in a little bit of detail this blue summary section that is the header for each report. And you'll notice you have several counts here, which will help you track your progress throughout the MIPS data submission process. The leftmost number is the total number of cases for the reporting period. And this is strictly based on procedure date. So right now I have a total of 5 cases that fall within the 2017 year. And this means that these cases all have a 2017 procedure date. This next number builds on that, and the total eligible cases count will reflect a 2017 procedure date and a primary procedure, which is the eligible CPT code. And so right now, of those 5 cases in the 2017 year, 4 of them are MIPS eligible based on that CPT code. Next, we have the total eligible cases selected for submission for CMS data submission. And this number reflects the number of cases in 2017 plus the eligible procedure, CPT code, and the cases that you have selected for MIPS consideration. So that checkbox at the top of the case form. And then we have the completed eligible cases ready for CMS data submission count. And this number reflects how many existing total MIPS eligible cases are marked as complete with all required data variables and measures entered. And then over here on the right, we have the estimated improvement activities score. Again, to earn full credit for full year participation, a total of 40 points is required in this MIPS category. And then you have a procedure date filter in which you may slide either of the icons from the left or the right to narrow down your case view based on procedure dates, or you may open up the calendar feature by clicking on the calendar icon next to each date. The first of the reports is the measure summary report, and it will display by default when initially running this entire report. All the measures selected by the surgeon will display as tiles with high-level information specific to each measure. And you'll notice that if you selected outcome measures, the tile colors will be different. So for an ordinary measure, you have a white background with black text. Here you have the measure title and number, the performance rate, and the case volume for that measure. This only takes into account completed cases. Here you'll notice that this tile is black with white text. This is to indicate an inverse measure. And that is a measure in which a 0% performance rate, which is also equivalent to answering performance not met, is the desired performance rate. The next report available to you is the measure details report. And it will allow you to drill down into more details for a specific measure. When selecting one of the listed measures, the system will show counts for aspects of both the measure denominator and numerator, as well as any exclusions or exceptions for the measure. And you also have the ability to drill down to the case level for each of those counts. So, in this measures surgeon is enrolled in column, click on a measure to begin drilling down. Let's say I want to find out which cases are my denominator exceptions. I can click on this bar here, and then in the case details section, you'll notice all of the cases that pertain to this specific data point. In the case details column, cases will display with the following information: MRN, procedure, procedure date, and date of birth. To open a specific case in a new browser tab, click on the case link under Access Case. And the last report available to you is the Missing Data view. The Missing Data report will allow you to filter cases for missing data and then drill down to case level variable details to find specific missing data points. So this is my full case list here. And you'll also notice that the system is prompting you to select a case from the case list table to see the details. So select your filter. So right now I'm looking at all eligible cases. There are 4 filters available to you. Currently we are on the all eligible cases filter, and this filter includes cases based on procedure date and primary procedure. Missing data for measure filter will list eligible MIPS cases with missing data. Submission ready will filter for completed and finalized MIPS cases. And then not selected for MIPS are all cases not selected for MIPS. So I've selected missing data for measure. And now, since I've selected this filter, the case list has been narrowed down. So select a case to view all measures details for that case. To open a specific case in the new browser tab, again, click on the case link under Access Case. But all of your case details will appear on the right side once you have selected a case. And you'll notice that missing data variables are highlighted in yellow and are indicated as not reported, whereas completed variables are indicated in blue. Section 4, approving your MIPS 2017 data submission. Currently, the data submission mechanism is not yet available, but once it is released, you'll be able to use this preview submission report to do a final review of your MIPS 2017 data submission and approve your MIPS 2017 data submission. So please stay tuned for notifications from us, as we will notify all MIPS users for when this mechanism becomes available. Approving your MIPS submission is the final step. If you do not approve your submission, your data will not be submitted to CMS. So please stay tuned for that information, as you will need to act on it.